Welcome to The Quantum State, a podcast exploring the latest research and innovation in quantum computing. Join us as we dive into groundbreaking breakthroughs, trends, and news shaping the quantum landscape. Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Quantum State. Today we have Scott Genin, the Vice President of Materials Discovery at OTI Lumionics. So Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about really interesting world of quantum computing and how the materials all come together.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Definitely. And so can you share a little bit about your journey into the field of material science and how quantum computing has become a part of your work? There's been a lot of interesting advances in the field over the many years that people have been doing quantum computing, but one of the big scalability challenges we talk about on this podcast is in the materials, especially for systems. So yeah, please tell us a bit about your career journey and what you all are doing at OTI Lumionics.
So our journey with quantum computing actually began in 2017. I had Michael Welander kind of convinced me to move from my previous job that working in pharma to kind of start the idea of using mathematics and simulation tools to improve the design and accelerate materials. I was in the experimental design field I was doing for pharma, and we were playing around with using quantum chemistry methods and electrodynamics methods and a bunch of other basically model developments for predicting properties of materials, predicting how materials behave in manufacturing, etc. And then one day he went to a conference in Quebec City, and on the way back from that conference to the airport, he shared a taxi with a venture capitalist from the BC area in Mo, who had recently invested in a Waterloo startup who was doing quantum computing, and they got chatting, and I said, well, have you looked into doing quantum computing for doing material simulations? And then he took the plane back to Toronto, and then he asked me the exact same question. I said, I don't know whether it's going to work. And then things just well aligned that the Creative Destruction Lab had a new program that they opened for quantum computing. So we applied and got in for that. And that's really what started our journey into quantum computing.
Great. Can you explain how OTI Luminatics utilizes quantum simulations and machine learning for developing new materials for OLEDs?
Yeah, so the quantum computing is really a accelerant or replacement for conventional quantum chemistry calculations done on a classical computer. So quantum computing really enhances the accuracy. Quantum chemistry by its nature, because we specifically are trying to solve the Schrodinger equation for any body system is an understatement. The many bodies are 600, and is in the conventional framework that you have to use on a classical computer, or at least how it's been formulated, there are significant trade-offs in terms of getting accuracy versus speed. So to get the perfect solution on a classical computer is without using the conventional frameworks, it's technically impossible for any OLED model. I think it surpasses the entire time of the universe, or at least until their sun is going to, it definitely surpasses 4.6 billion years of compute time. Every single computer on this planet, so we'd have to build a lot more computers. But that's not unexpected. That's how it works. So people make a lot of trade-offs there. With a quantum computer, there are kind of other trade-offs. So you can actually get to a near perfect solution. There are consequences, there are trade-offs that you have to make, but it's no longer exponential scaling. And so that means that there is hope that that it's possible to solve the electronic structure of complex materials like the local or OLED materials or nanometer complexes. It breaks all within a couple of days, very little within a couple of days. But where OTI has really been focusing on is basically making very specific purpose-built quantum emulators just to do form structure calculations. And so that has really enabled us to basically do near perfect simulations with very high accuracy for large molecules. Does it still take a significant amount of time? Yes, this is still a calculation that runs for about a week. But we're able to basically outperform conventional methods in terms of accuracy, precision, and overall material design properties using the mathematics of how the quantum computer actually will slope an electronic structure.
How big are those molecules that you're seeing an advantage for?
So these molecules are about 70 atoms, but it's not just about that. It's like these molecules will have a metal center, typically like a fifth row element in it. So that instantly introduces something like, in the order of 70 electrons.
Mm-hmm.
And, risk will only introduce 6. So you get, it's not just that it has 70 atoms, it also has some pretty big atoms in there bringing a lot of electrons. And those also create a lot of additional, other complexities in the calculation itself. Like relativistic effects become important. And that means that the Hamiltonian energy generator are far more complicated. And, these are problems that conventional methods sometimes struggle with. But the quantum computing methods, they're able to somehow, through how they're executing these operations, they seem to handle these edge cases significantly better.
Right. So can we dive a little deeper into that? The challenges that you have for designing materials for these applications and how you all are addressing these challenges. Like you mentioned already, the center is a little bit different than just a general molecule. So are you all, looking at parts of the molecule, or what other challenges are you facing there?
So in terms of the overall design of an OLED molecule, the real challenge is that unless you actually have a multi-billion dollar OLED foundry and are willing to throw $30 million a week at it to testing materials, you have to be really confident that your material will meet specification. That's one of the challenges of the OLED industry is that material is not a material until it has mass production qualification. And to do mass production qualifications, easily over $30 million, you have to convince a massive company that has an OLED foundry to do that test. That's really one of the big challenges. So the idea of using the quantum computing methods is really to make sure that the properties of predicting for we synthesize that material are going to be incredibly accurate. And so, not only does OTI focus on making very accurate quantum chemistry simulations, we have an entire divisions and departments dedicated to actually doing the engineering around OLED manufacturing equipment. We have a pilot scale OLED manufacturing production line in Toronto. And so with that, we can test things like how does the material decompose over a week, being constantly heated. And it's kind of the two sides in that, it's why, OTI is successful in this area is because we're able to approach the material design problem from kind of multiple directions. And we're able to really accelerate and, then present to our customers very accurate, reliable data so that they know and they have confidence that when we send them a material, it's going to work.
And so you mentioned that you're with these kinds of molecules, you have to really pay attention to effects like relativistic corrections and so forth. So I'm wondering, there's been some work on on the theory side for quantum simulations of chemistry and so forth. Are you having to sort of come up with new approaches to quantum algorithms, and do you have a team that you can work with that you help develop those?
Yeah, so actually, a lot of people on the material discovery side, they're dedicated to developing new quantum algorithms. In fact, OTI is one of the developers or inventors of the qubit cluster method. that in itself is a very, I guess, kind of long journey because it was, kind of meant to go 2018. But it started from, opening up it started from downloading FermiLib, which was Fermi, obviously the open source, downloading Stir from Google, asking it to simulate water, and then sitting there and basically asking, how does what is the EQ of the water solve within 2 hours?
Yeah.
And then looking at the entire circuit that it prints out and saying, wow, that's a lot of really big circuit. It's asking Quantique to get smaller. So, we invented an entire algorithm for generating quantum chemistry circuits that is still the theoretically most compact form. And it's still has not been exceeded in terms of generating the fewest number of quantum circuits of like physical gate operations. They want to speaking it in that respect. Well, then we continue to develop. We pioneered methods of iterative cluster, involuntary linear combination, which is a methodology for doing quantum chemistry entanglements where you can basically set up the entire code as a major phase problem on a classical computer. So I don't know, simulating like circuits that have depths that no quantum computer today could actually simulate. I'd simulate on a classical computer at like 200 qubits within a matter of minutes. We published all of this information, so it's all publicly available for agreement to read. We don't hide about the quantum chemistry or the quantum, especially not the quantum computing work that we do. We're very proud of our very intelligent scientists and hardworking software developers who come up with very clever theories and very clever ways of programming RAM, basically.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. You said 200 qubits simulators?
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah, so our current simulator goes to about 200 qubits on 2 terabytes of RAM.
Oh, wow. And so it's internally, you're not using any of the cloud systems that are out there?
No, we have some partnerships which I can't disclose at this time. Those will come out soon, though. Where they're using cloud. We're kind of working together in terms of using cloud systems, but we typically, it's pretty expensive. Especially when you want to use a 2 terabyte node that can't go down, right?
Yeah.
The challenge is that there's only so many people we have, and if you use spot instances and they go down, like that calculation is done. It's ended, right? And so it's not, you can't continue onwards. Buying a 2 terabyte node is expensive, but it's not that expensive.
Right.
You can go through a lot more cloud computing than you can definitely burn a hole through your wallet with cloud computing with a 2 terabyte RAM requirement.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, I remember.
It's not cheap.
So the Circ simulator, they say you can do about 30, I don't remember, 32 or 35 qubits with about 8 gigs of RAM. And then they say for every additional qubit that you add, you have to double the RAM. So you guys are scaling not that quickly for each qubit, which is why, we'd always talked about, for a lot of the systems, kind of 40 qubits is kind of the limit for a simulator right now for a personal use, because you just can't. You don't have the funds to buy those systems and that much RAM.
Yeah, we also use a different approach than what Google uses. We use a method of binary encoding that scales O(n) to the 4 instead. There are ways to doing it. You have to, it's not a clean O(n) to the 4. There's kind of your chaos into it, and that has to spend a lot of time programming it. It's a very delicate operation, we'll say, in terms of programming. It requires people to spend more than a year actually programming it. Whereas like a circuits and kind of like simple Python C, and still just hire an intern, a very smart intern, to do it in an afternoon. Google has the means to do that. But you end up with that trade-off where after 32 qubits, as you said, every additional qubit doubles the RAM, and that's expected. But we basically developed a new method to store Hamiltonian instead of in the massive wafers, and we use that form. We published about it. So it's not a huge surprise. It's just surprising that no one else really adopts that method. But I would also make the argument that it's not a universal simulator, right? Ours cannot execute a Fourier transform, right? It basically calculates expectation values. But for quantum chemistry, that's all you really need.
Right. And it's like if you find a solution in a market that uses it, no one's gonna care what method you use as long as they get the results.
Yeah, that's basically what our real customers tell us. We often, when we show our results, we just send to go talk to the computational chemists at various companies, and they just care, is this faster than the SCCSP? Is this faster than the UMRT? And if it is, then they say, okay, we'll use it. But they don't even ask, is this better than what a quantum computer predicted? Right. They just care about, is this better than what they can do now?
Right.
But I mean, all of this started from the operations of how a quantum computer works. So it is technically still quantum started.
Definitely. So you've been talking quite a bit about the processes and the back end that you have and the breakthroughs that you made there, which are quite impressive. So can you tell a little bit about any breakthroughs in the actual material discovery side of actually applying these tools that your team has achieved?
Yeah, I mean the conductor cathode patterning material was invented using the visual pairing methodology that we developed to be as kind of I'm not sure exactly how much. Well, the conductor material, it's not a sex tool. You can buy it, you sell it, you will buy it, or companies buy it. I can't say that's good, let's say. But that material, the first generation of that material was discovered in very late 2017, for about 6 months. And then then it was just iterations about that generation. We call it generation 1. But generation 2, as we build up more and more accurate tools, and take one, we were able to basically develop and virtualize the second generation of a conductor within about 3 months. And that's with technically only one metastance. So you can see how the acceleration really happened. And then generation 3 was developed within also about 3 months. Now with the 3 chemists, and now we have a lot more chemists. Most of their responsibility role is to scale up, actually making sure that the material is really pure when it gets shipped out to our customers, and about working on generation 4 now. But I would say the conductor is the concrete example of also the generations of it is a concrete example of a material design problem, right? But the first generation, we had to shop that around a lot. That's why it's like, basically getting shopped around in 2018. And we never see feedback from customers or suppliers until our customers is like 20 to generate the next generation. So that was like, that's like why that delay. Well, in the display industry, your end customers now spend $30 million. They really want to trust you. You really have to earn that respect. I think that's one of the issues that, a lot of other startups, they, or professors, I see this a lot. Professors will say, oh, OLED material. And it's like, well, you have no clue whether that's going to go far or not, right? It could be a great material, and there could be one property that kills it, and no one's going to spend $30 million estimate, right? And so for us, when we send them that spec sheet, they know it's rock solid because they know we tested it. So they have a lot of confidence and trust. But that is the second, I'd say the third generation conductor was designed with some almost fair methods. The generation 1 and 2 were designed with using electron structure calculations too. You can design a chemical now with an electron structure package, like kind of noticing gains. Quantum computers aren't going to do that. Right? Quantum computers just going to give you a better answer slightly faster, hopefully.
Can you talk a little bit about how the this computational materials design actually feeds into next generation consumer electronics and maybe even automotive applications?
Yeah, that's kind of it's a fairly that's great. There can be a very long, it can be a very short discussion, or it can be a very long discussion. We can get into all the intricacies of what the auto industry requires or whatnot, but the idea is that generally a quantum computer or materials discovery. So if we're talking about the high accuracy simulations, right? The purpose of the high accuracy simulation is to reduce in principle, is to improve the confidence that a material will have certain properties when someone actually goes and synthesizes and tests it. Right? It's basically a confidence engine. And so, in automotive, the standard that the materials need to pass is much stringent than for a iPhone display, for example, or a Samsung display, or any display. Because a car in automotive is subjected to far more kind of UV radiation. It's outside a lot. And your phone, you don't hold your phone up and you don't point it at the sun and wave it around for hours on end. At least I hope you don't. But so now the material needs to be even more UV resistant. Well, that's a problem, UV vis calculation and the resistance to UV vis degradation can be modeled using DFT. But DFT, it has issues with some of the calculations, or some of the accuracy. If you wanted to radically change the design of the material, like, I want to completely change out the core constituents of this. I have changed your DFT functional. It's G4 is set to. So you end up having to really get it. Like a lot of academics basically publish papers where they create very nice little systems that show the working utilities story pipeline. But in reality, there's kind of this trick where DFT results are actually usually experimental results are actually used to feed into DFT simulations to actually are going in the reverse direction of what you're supposed to do. This is why we aim for very kind of reliable simulations where we know methods like pseudo-couple cluster. It doesn't care what the constituents of the are. It basically attacks the problem the exact same with no pre-parameterization of the problem. That in principle would allow us to get more accurate UV vis simulation, which would allow us to better understand whether materials may degrade faster in a UV system, which would help us develop materials for OLEDs and automotive displays. That's a direct chain. How is quantum computing overall going to affect the industry? The companies that know how to do materials discovery, it's just going to accelerate their processes, right? You can approach the materials discovery philosophy from multiple different directions, and as long as you do have some degree of comfort of risk, right? It's still you have to think of materials discovery as kind of an expected outcome, right? Not a pure guarantee. On the other guarantee in materials discovery. I would just say that though materials discovery is a business operation, so you're gonna see it from companies that are already incorporated, mixed models and combined, machine learning of the simulation. Excellent modeling and validation in actual end use cases. Those are the companies that can basically mimic a entire supply chain and entire manufacturing process and end user requirements, are going to be able to utilize quantum computer to generate ideas much faster, or improve the number of materials that even need to go through that simulation pipeline. Companies which just use a bunch of chemists to synthesize, they will have very similar workflow because they can't use DFT, and if you can't use DFT, design a molecule, quantum computers not going to
So are you seeing the rise of certain industries requiring or them reaching into this technology more than others, or are you seeing legacy systems? Like I'm seeing, everyone asks like, how is AI, the rise of AI impacted your industries? Are there, applications of self-driving cars, and because they're ahead, they're more able to embrace quantum computing, or maybe the processes are more agile than legacy systems, or are you seeing the opposite, where the legacy systems have those robust testing processes in place where you can integrate the quantum into it?
So typically, materials and chemistry will be legacy systems. There is a lot of safety, and there's some. There's, I would say, well, I guess there's still some security requirements, but they had a very far head start. Um, in terms of like a self-driving lab, a self-driving lab's a little bit difficult because a robot is still not very good at detecting a round bottom flask from a reflux column, and that's a very important problem. In terms of the where you're going to see AI and maybe complicated, but also in general, like robotics is just to be far more prevalent is in pharmaceuticals, where a lot of their chemistry can be done in aqueous. That's one huge advantage that they have, right? And so even before I worked at OTI, I was setting up, I was helping basically the board set up Roche liquid handlers to do design experiments. So even back in 2016, I was really in the pharmaceutical industry. That was really the dawn of automated materials design, software, and media formulation was really 2015, 2016, way before even academics started getting into it. And it just started with basically people following the NIST handbook for design of experiments with a machine that could set up 96 experiments in parallel. And they still use those methods today because people understand it, people get good data from it, and it's incredibly reliable. It's now become a legacy system in pharmaceuticals, right? We have now even Eli Lilly built an entire facility in, I believe, San Diego, California. Very impressive facility. It's robotics. It's still like about 6, 7, 8 years old, but it still gets the job done. Maybe it's not as efficient as it could be, given what we know now, but it still gets the job done for the cost that people expect it to. In OLEDs, our chemistry is a lot dirtier. We have harsh solvents. We have long reflux times. We have heavy metals and heavy metal centers like platinum, iridium. These are not safe for fun. If that robot drops it while moving, and no one notices it, see, the thing about tennis is the tennis drops flat, they notice it instantly. If a robot drops it and it doesn't notice it, and then no one's aware of it, someone comes and slips, and now we have shards of glass, right? So it's the risk factor in automating more earlier chemistry, or what we say more industrial solvent-based chemistry, is a lot. It's a more passion. And I wish we could use aqueous chemistry. I wish our chemistry worked in aqueous solutions. But metals, the numerical chemistry is where they were found in aqueous solutions. And when it's incredibly slow. And so we're just, we're pounding out the reaction chemistry. But, we are going to see an acceleration. I just think that it is going to be a lot of legacy players who are just a little bit ahead of the curve. They may not even be the most advanced or the best, but they'll just be like, oh, well, I can use other handlers, and now we can automate this process, and now we can do, have some more tests. And we can validate 1,000 more materials per day. And it's just going to accelerate the need for the candidate generation, which is usually a computational process. And so that's where I think there's going to be a bit of a feedback loop, but I expect it's actually be driven on the experimental side as a demand for more potential candidates.
And with these industries that you're targeting, are you seeing the materials discovery? What parameters are they optimizing for? Is it efficiency, lifespan? What are the
For OLEDs, specifically OLEDs in the display industry, they're optimized for blue. So blue is a big challenge. You need the most perfect blue possible. If it's off by a couple nanometers, it's unacceptable, and no one will like it. People are optimizing for the lifetime. Right? They want to make sure that those blue emitters last a very long time. We see some very interesting chemistry come out recently where they've managed to narrow basically they've been able to tune the emissions factor very precisely by doing some all chemistry around it. So, blue phosphorescent emitter is still a huge area of research and development within the OLED industry. And then we would get within display in general for OLEDs, we also see like a new display archetypes coming out. So new stacks and combinations of materials, new circuit design within those OLED stacks is really fun as well.
So just a question, really thinking as more of a futurist. What do you think are some potential shifts in the electronics and photonics industries as a result of advancements in materials design?
Well, really, advanced materials really enable and they open up a wide range and wedge of new possibilities. I don't classify myself as a futurist. Um, I'm typically I'm not super optimistic always about the future. I tend to be I'd say more realistic in the now. Um, but at least in terms of trends, we're seeing transparent displays, right? Companies are making various types of transparent displays, including OTI, and we're all trying to gauge how a customer will react to it, right? So, heads-up displays in the automotive sector might, I wouldn't say it's like 2 years away, but it's definitely being looked at in terms of a viable application. But with display, there's always the material side, there's the manufacturing side, and then there's the human interaction side, right? And why it's important that companies, generate these initial prototypes, even if the prototype is like, it costs $100,000 to make let's say a transparent computer monitor. Even if it costs $100,000 to make it, it's an important demonstration because we really need to start to gauge how customers and consumers could actually use that, whether they would actually be accepting of it, right? Because to actually make that mass produced, that's really expensive. It's not $30 million. It's far more expensive to actually make at a scale that would be affordable to a consumer. So really a lot of his, things that we see in some of the shows in like Las Vegas or your electronic consumer show, those are really important prototypes that people actually make. And that's where you can kind of judge. But I would say that 80% of them are going to fit. 80% of them are going to have and a lot will fail because of consumer interaction with a person. But if they don't make them, we're never going to learn. And that's really what people are in the display. How the industry are using the shows is really gauge for sentiment and whether people will actually use these technologies. Because display is a very intimate, an intimate experience, right? It's one of our main visual processing. It's visual processing for us, right? And so it's a huge part of our lives. To change how displays, radically change displays is the thing quite a while because people need to start getting comfortable. But I would say, the two that I think are the one that I think is definitely on the horizon is there's going to be more Apple Face ID type technology with infrared. And soon we're going to see that migrating under the display so that it's not visible anymore. And then we're going to see under panel cameras. Those are probably the two closest technological changes in display. And and then we're going to see that first probably within the phones. And then we'd expect to see that actually within the laptops. There are already prototypes out there. None of them are really truly commercially viable, but the industry there is a lot of interest from the end user and from the founders actually this happens. So we think that it's just that coalescing around this, making this a viable end product.
So there's a lot of kind of work still to be done in the quantum computing space. So what milestones are you looking for that would accelerate your work?
Fidelity of the gate operations. What is it? I don't want to quote exact names and just hang it to me that they want, but there was press release of 1,000 qubit quantum computer. Like, that's already we already have funding for this. They actually need 4 chemistry simulations. 1,000 is plenty. But those qubits have to be perfect. Right? There's low room for error in these things. The quantum chemistry simulation is it's benchmarked based on like fractions of percents when it comes to accuracy. And so, these fidelities, it's no longer like, well, I need a pseudo fault tolerant quantum computer or I need, robust error correction. No, we need a perfect quantum computer. When we have a perfect quantum computer that has fidelities that have error rates or like, fidelities that are like, 99.9, repeating for mine other more decimal places, then we have a quantum computer that will work for chemistry. Up until then, it's just the accuracy requirement that quantum chemistry has to demand is so well takes a lot of people who are not in the field by surprise.
Are you seeing any certain types of quantum hardware getting closer for your purposes?
Yes, we are seeing some like the kind of making a logical qubit out of kind of out of bosonic bolts. I understand this is still quite a difficult operation, but the quantum computer itself, the quantum qubit itself, the logical qubit, shows very high stability. That's kind of comprised of these bosonic nodes, but also that architecture, these atomic weight pulse. I know Nordic Quantique is working on them, which is a Canadian startup company based in Sherbrooke, Quebec. But I also believe that I'm fairly certain quantum integrated is also working on this design or architecture. That hardware, it actually does have immediate application in quantum chemistry, which is the fact that it's controllable. And so there's actually a very good mapping from how the machine works intrinsically. Forget the logical qubit portion, but it technically replicates what a quantum spectral calculations. And that's a component of quantum chemistry. It's not the whole thing, but it is a component. So it's like, well, you can at least, that quantum computer natively should be able to at least do 50% of a UV viz spectral calculation. That's pretty impressive on its own. Right, but if they use very high precision, you don't need that many qubits. If you got to 50 qubits that were all fully connected and had near perfect fidelity, fully error corrected, that would be enough to really design material quite efficiently and design any materials. So I look at those very high stability qubits, right? Things like the superconducting. I haven't seen the progress in the fidelity that I think is that it's on a safe trajectory. The problem fan traps at the algorithm too slow. You know, in some hours, it's Microsoft's worth saying that it will, it's going to take 200 years to solve a logo using an ion trap with the best possible CSI. I said, oh, that's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could just make that material instead and test it, right? And so, I have not only towards those programmable cycles on computers right now, but I say anyone who's a quantum computing vendor, you send me this stuff to your quantum computer, and I'm more than happy to chat and learn. You know, show me that you've got an amazing quantum computer, and I will definitely send service for you guys to simulate.
Yeah, it's great that we have a race because it's really pushing the different architectures to up their game.
I mean,
just turning over a little bit about your personal involvements in the company. With given your background in chemical engineering and chemistry, how has your approach to materials discovery evolved while at OTI Lumionics?
I'd say like when you first in pharmaceuticals, because the end game is a lot better, so that the end goal is much better sussed out. Like, we are going to make a drug that targets this protein, right? And we know if we do this, we have a thing that goes into phase 0 clinical trials, and then possibly phase 1, right? That's the internal events. Well, actually, these are all in the spheres. Maybe I'll sit down. In pharmaceuticals, we have the end, the target is once they're defined, right? We want to design a small molecule, or we want to design a peptide that will interfere in this known metabolic path. And they know that if they are able to achieve that, you can, it gets handed off to clinical trials, and then your job is done, right? And that might survive the company. Like there are many companies that are basically just designed purely on the hope that they'll pass a clinical trial. That doesn't mean that, still 90% will fail. But in that industry, that's actually not that bad. It's easy to just like 2% succeeds. And I think AI has kind of nudged around the borders, particularly with toxicity. There's excellent databases of well-known toxicity results. So in terms of understanding how chemicals affect toxicity in mice and rats, AI has done an outstanding job in really accelerating that portion, right? The screen molecules that will probably fail that animal trial. In the thing about a drug is that a drug is a very high markup, and then like I said, it's kind of like the end game is kind of better understood, right? The risks and rewards are better understood. In OLEDs, that's not the case. In OLEDs, the end game is very murky, and people don't really know what's going on, but they know we have to meet like a very, very high purity standard for a chemical. Like these chemicals, what really kills most OLED companies is just one of the things getting, easily bypassed because we focus on the section at the beginning. Was actually having the tools that have been to validate an OLED built with certain chemicals. There are a bunch of companies, particularly ones that spit out of universities. Professor this leader paper in a new complex, they file a patent, then they try to commercialize it, and it basically fails very quickly, and then the company falls. That's a very common story. That's very common. The best seller industry has less than 10% success rate. We're like even getting into that $30 million pilot test with us, which OTI has done multiple times already. So we easily cleared the hardest part. So I've been really focusing on, there's some discovery. It's kind of actually approaching it from the two sides, right? Looking at trying to actually solidify what is the end goal, right? And is this material something that could be scaled up and manufactured in a chemical process? Right? That's sort of chemical engineering background. It helps is that I still understand how a chemical plant works and how it is supposed to be designed. I know all the models. I had an even for all the models to design those things. I was trained on how to use HYSYS and Super Pro, which is the worst thing for a software. Not very helpful at all. But Super Pro is a process model in software where you can basically understand how a chemical plant will work, but also understanding it from the front end, right? Like, how do you go about screening and it's how do you first and foremost generate a list of candidates, right? And so one of the key strategies that we've done is often what we call which I think is supposed to counter to what any academic set can do. I call it like the railroad path, where basically we actually use the very end to build a track on which we then send the AI and computational chemistry platforms down. Right, so this is really the bench chemists really say these are these are the reactions we can actually do, and we are trained to do very well. Because in our case, a tiny amount of impurities can just utterly contaminate actually data. Sorry, if a material has some impurities, it can be like, oh, this material fails in testing, but it's like, can actually work, it was actually purified properly. So really the skill of a chemist, which is why we hire exceptionally talented chemists. It's one of the things that we spend a lot of time making sure our chemists are incredibly well trained, and we have incredibly well talented and exceptional chemists at OTI or in Western Canada, and they will really guide the computational team on these are the reactions we can actually execute very well. And that if something goes wrong in this reaction, we will know how to fix it midway. And then that creates the kind of railroad upon which then we build this, the computational tools, and we kind of send down one itself. So that's really kind of actually using the end, understanding the life cycle of a chemical, using the end piece first, to build actually the initial track that the whole system runs down, and that's been incredibly successful for OTI.
Right.
But that I think that kind of is a bit from the academic standpoint. That sounds like I believe it's not a little bit hot, but when I say I'm meaning on the CEO of Roger, so that he's everyone gets around applause. He's more. I think he's more familiar with the academic side. I don't know. A lot of the tools, a lot of the processes, it's really the order in which you actually have to take these and how you have a proper feedback loop. And that really makes these methods fun. And so that's how, in Pharma, we always, because we understand where we're going so well, we don't really need to think about that too much. So how, this chemical process said you synthesis. Make it anyways. In our field, it'd be like, oh, this is 3 chemistry steps. That's too many steps. That's too many reactions someone has to do. We're not doing it, right? And that's purely because we know if we had to build a chemical plant that had to do 17 chemical reactions, it would be unprofitable. Right? And that's really a huge motivator in terms of like, well, I'm just not going to synthesize the material design. Plain and simple.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned is, training up your scientists or chemists really well. And one of the reasons we started this podcast was really because, one of the issues with quantum is also that education aspect, right? A big problem that I saw with early stage quantum startups is they go to a company and go, give me a problem I can solve with a quantum computer. And they go, they don't have that intuition of what problems can be used on a quantum computer, right? So what have you done? What kind of innovation and training have you done in leading your teams towards building these solutions in materials discovery?
Oh, no, that's a very good question. We can talk about it from the customer interaction perspective, or we can talk about it from the internal training perspective. In terms of internal training, it's pretty much been like, we come up with the thing and be like, well, I don't really have a method that can predict this property of a material. Okay, well, let's scour the literature. Let's figure out what is an appropriate tool that would actually be able to solve this, right? And then you make that tool and then you kind of try to fit it into a flow pattern. And you're like, well, this tool, it can only process 20, simulate materials per day, whereas another tool can simulate 200. Therefore, the one that's 200 comes first because it's constrained materials. Then really understanding and feeding that, the training process for educating people on that is, I would say, like, from what OTI does internally is we do spend, or whenever we hire people, I always tell them, we expect that we're going to spend a year training you, right? And we're going to train you in how cubic couple cluster theory works. We're going to train you in conventional molecular dynamics, molecular dynamics that we're interested in, which is kind of, ours is very specific. So most people who are trained with dynamics don't know the type of system problems that we actually want to explore in our case. So we spend time training them there. We spend that time training them on, fundamentals, particularly because phosphorescence is a big property that we're interested in, which is the color that a neutral will hit. It is phosphorescent emitter. We train people on this is the simulation protocol you run if you want to know that is. And these are the basis sets that you want to run if it has TLM to it. And these are the other ones. These are the things. So we spend a lot of time to train people on this. And you can sort of customer engagement with the quantum compute specifically. We have been a little bit, I would actually say that early days, in kind of less like, oh, what do you think you can stimulate this material, but like still alive. Right? Like whenever you would talk to the actual computational chemist, they'd be like, well, that's packed cute. Cool. And that would end it. And then they're like, well, what if we actually did a material design campaign where we simulated a bunch of things and then actually generated the correlation plot for it to show people that you could use the results to actually forecast and what we through this. And then they're like, oh, now I understand what you're trying to do. Right. And so often you actually have to meet them a lot further, right? It's not just you go to companies, you give you your problems. it's incredibly rare that you get a company that will actually A, disclose that data, and B, would actually, I've only ever met one company that actually was like, oh yeah, here's the problems for you to run and report back to you with what the results look like. Um, in a lot of cases, they just kind of are like, oh, well, that's an interesting PES curve. I don't know what it means. I don't know how this is relevant to design OLED material or designing other materials. Um, come back when you actually have shown that this simulation predicts this experimental property, and here's the experimental result to confirm it. Then they go, oh, now I see. It's like, what kind of say, I believe Steve Jobs said is that people don't know what they want until you show it to them. And so you have to really show them some sort of test case that is concrete and rigid and very well done before then they go, oh, now I see. Right, now I can tell you more about exactly what I want. I need you to tweak this, do that. But until you show them, they're like, oh, that's cute. Oh, nice science paper, right? Also shot.
I think you've touched on something that's actually an issue in all of quantum technologies, including sensing and communications. There are these in principle things that are exciting, particularly from the academic perspective. But until you see a real context where there's some new capability that comes out of it, the use case is not so obvious.
Yeah, that's one of the big barriers, right? I still think that academics provide a very valuable, well, especially in the quantum B side, because they are the generator of a lot of these ideas, and surprisingly, it's just that what the goal of an academic is, to publish paper and manage research lab. It's still like that's not an academic pursuit. Whereas particularly material discovery, material discovery is not an academic pursuit, period. In my opinion, it is a business operation because the material doesn't exist until it's in product, right? Until consumers have it in their hand and they don't know about it. It doesn't exist. It's not only that it exists in block piece of paper, right? And that is, and that's not that doesn't product in consumer's hand doesn't get good paper because that takes multiple years. No paper because you have to be hush hush about it because the intermediate manufacturer does not want anyone to know, and until the right moment, and that doesn't be any paper. So this fossil sentiment, this one-two story is purely a business pursuit because the incentives there align, whereas after they don't. But at least in quantum computing, its current stage, there's a pretty decent alignment because the technology is advancing very quickly. It's very interesting. It's produced a lot of really good papers. So it's actually surprising how, we can't publish really anything about our actual material. We can't publish anything about our material discovery workflow. Right? I can't tell you what algorithms I use. Those are the most hush things. I can't tell you which, how we, aside from the general framework, I can tell you every single stuff of it. But my quantum computing stuff, we can talk about all the intrinsic theories and all the incredible things, and it's like, oh, this is okay. So it's the quantum computing is actually very, I think, in the long run, it's well positioned because there's such great industry, academic, government alignment, and trying to get the technology to be very viable. My biggest fear about it is that it will not be efficacious. Right? It's still overhyped and under deliver. Now, I think people are in for the long haul, and a couple of see AI evolve. I think it's the AI journey is pretty it's well documented and very successful. I think that 10, 20 years from that quantum computing will be kind of having that moment. But I would expect that actually the public will be better aware of it, right? Because there's just so much academic. There's just a whole lot of everybody else follow that, but she stays ahead.
Yeah. So just finishing up, are there any upcoming projects or collaborations that you could talk about that you're particularly excited about?
I mean, we have a collaboration with North Quantique about doing Photonics vector calculations on their hardware. It was a grant partially funded by NGen, so NGen pays some money to help the collaboration move forward. It's a 2-year project, so we're very excited about it because one of the challenges that we've always faced, is that unless you have really deep access to the hardware itself from the user standpoint, like most of the results that come from any system, aside from V-Ray, like the results that come out of I know people don't complain about V-Ray a lot. I don't complain about it because how long goes in and answers come out that makes sense. Whereas if I ran a computer to run through the cloud systems, I can't interpret the results like in a meaningful way.
Well,
I know that students or new collaborations that we had in the past for Betty, once you actually get that very deep fine-tuned hardware access, you can usually get something out of it on a computer. So we're very excited that we're able to do that for Quantique for better sector calculations. This is kind of I think less appreciated aspects of quantum chemistry. So we're excited to see what comes out of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Scott, so much for your insights and your time coming on this podcast. So, where can we find more info about OTI, about the work that you're doing, and where people can ask more questions about it?
I mean, our website's a great place. We post all of our academic papers that are related to quantum computing. You can just see our product line, the product line, and what is I would achieve, and so it's some of the human design features. These are, that's probably the best place. You can also catch me generally at a lot of the conferences, either myself, Michael Leander, or Genin. We're pretty active, I think. SIDs today, we just coming out in May, so if people listen to the podcast, they're going to be there. You can only one of the title Leaders has been there. I would be at HMT in Vancouver this year. And so I'm sure that's why we're more people who listen to your podcast lined up. But that's also a place where, there's a chance to talk to people from OTI and learn more. But I'd say on our website, we're very transparent about our quantum computing applications and the quantum papers that we actually publish. So they're all there for anyone to read. So I start there. And if you have any other further questions, you can always reach out.
Perfect. And for listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you are on YouTube, all these links will be in the description below. And if you have any comments, make sure to comment down there. And always, you can listen to this podcast wherever you find your podcast, Spotify, Apple. And thank you so much again, Scott, for your time, and Gavin for co-hosting with me today.
thanks.
Thank you so much.